Well, in terms of the comments of the rector this morning, he talked about ambiguity, and we live in a world of increasing uncertainty, and we also live in a world of change, and really those two are very connected. There's a rapid change causes each of us to have to get up in the morning and question what we're supposed to be doing. What's the meaning of our work today, given the change that happened last night? Purdue's answer to this is really tied up in its mission. It's in our Constitution, it's in our charter, that we must serve the community. Okay, so the land-grant institution received its original charter with the Morrill Act in 1862, and at that time the U.S. was undergoing great change for its time. We were pushing west in our country, and a lot of folks were settling on farms, and then we were taking over large expanses of land and bringing them under agriculture. And so we were formed at that time of great change in order to transmit agricultural knowledge to people who didn't have a lot of farming experience, okay? So you can see that, and I do want to connect that to Bob's comment about the University of Bologna. The University of Bologna was created, even though change was slower in that time period, 1,000 years ago, it was created in order to become a steward of knowledge and to provide a place for people who had controversy about knowledge to go work it out and to protect them from folks who didn't see the world that they did, okay? So universities have a history of responding to change from the very beginning up through Purdue University and land-grant universities in the United States. And even to today. But as the rector said, what's happening today is the change is happening so quickly that we become a little bit unmoored, a little bit queasy at the rate of change. Okay, so Discovery Park was something that we created in the early 2000s in order to respond to the fact that research was becoming very complicated and very interdisciplinary. That hard problems, knotty problems, wicked problems you would only develop approaches to those, solutions to those problems, by bringing many mental models together, okay, from across engineering, from across the university, understanding people issues and pulling those mental models all together to come up with solutions, okay? So that was the change that we responded to with Discovery Park in the early 2000s. But if you fast forward, we had an entrepreneurship center built into the original Discovery Park, but over the last 10 years since our founding, we found that the entrepreneurship and the ability to translate technology is becoming much more important, okay? And it's our university's response. It's all our university's response. It's KFUPM's response to the needs of the day, okay? One thing I want to point out, since even though universities have been around for 1,000 years, and I'm a professor, my 2,000 professor colleagues at Purdue tend to think of the university as kind of a bastion of constancy with respect to stewarding knowledge. Okay, we think that the universities in that regard, the research, the teaching, certainly the teaching has been around for 1,000 years, but research as an industrial endeavor, as a mass endeavor, only happened since the mid-20th century, okay, right after World War II. So we think of research and publishing as something that's goes back to Newton or is a constant, but in fact it's relatively new. Entrepreneurship today, since it's only been around a few years, is thought of as something foreign to the university, but in fact the entrepreneurship brings all these three missions. At Purdue, we believe that entrepreneurship is the root of the 21st century response to the Morrill Act. It's the way, instead of transferring agricultural knowledge in the 1860s, it's how we can translate rapid research from our interdisciplinary campus out to the community very quickly. Okay, and it brings the students together. They're the focus of our startups. It brings the research together. Successful research ideas go into the companies, right? So it's got students and research, and it engages the community for economic transfer by the very fact that you put the startup out there. So it's an ingenious way to take those parts of the university that our faculty think of as a constant and translate it and be very efficient and be able to live in this world of change and ambiguity. Okay, so entrepreneurship is really the university answer. It's the university mindset to deal with the needs of the day. Okay, and I would also like to pass my congratulations on to Whale for taking the leadership role here in bringing that mindset to KFUPM. He's doing it with quite an exclamation point. I'll say a little bit more about that during my talk, but let me turn it back over to my colleague.
Joe, thank you very much. And I think we really have a broad general context or idea of the university in the 21st century. And I think the examples from the University of Virginia and Purdue University serve us very well in providing excellent, in a sense, case studies of how the teaching and research and outreach mission of the university can carry on through the 21st century. So let me just, if I can, wrap up by making some broad comments about the entrepreneurial university. And at least my view from having thought about this since Wal gave me the opportunity to do this keynote talk. First, maintaining the core mission of the university while taking on a leadership role. The university's job has always been the production and dissemination of knowledge. We live in a knowledge economy. What better time for the university to move to an even stronger leadership role, given that the economic environment and the university's mission have really formed this sweet spot. Secondly, creating innovative approaches to its traditional areas of teaching, research, and outreach. We've heard a couple of those innovative approaches today, but it'll remain consistent with it needs to remain consistent with the existing strengths of the university. And as you're thinking of doing this here within KFUPM, focus on those existing strengths. They're wonderful. They're incredible. And finally, the transferring of knowledge from the classroom and laboratory to the world outside the university. How does that happen? Well, it doesn't happen in silos. Breaking down those silos, doing this in a cross-campus manner. And it's the entire university community, together with the economic community, with the entrepreneurial community here, that's going to establish those ecosystems to make that happen. And you're off to a wonderful start. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So we have, some time for like 2 questions, if there are any questions. No questions? Yes, and you can just like use the mic near to you. So.
Thank you for that interesting talk. I think in your talk you talked a lot about universities as a big thing. Where does the drive come from? Is it from the students? Is it from faculty members? Is it from senior management? Is it from all of those? Where's the real energy, passion come from? Could you give us some examples?
Okay, yeah. Thanks, that's a great question. I probably should have thought about that and covered that. Entrepreneurship's about outliers. At least innovative entrepreneurship is about outliers. And I think similarly within university, it's about outliers. It's about a few individuals who really have a vision, have a passion for this thing, and can bring along colleagues. But it's those outliers with support from the leadership of the university to say, yes, this is exactly what's happening. So it's those individual outliers with the passion. It's support from the university within that ecosystem, and it's combining that with the relevant community with which that university operates, and here that would be largely the Durand Techno Valley. So it's a combination of those three things. But at the core, it's very similar to entrepreneurship. It's about that outlier. It's about that innovator. It's about that person who's willing to go out there and take a risk.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, please, join me again. Just thank Bob for an outstanding speech. Thank you.
Thank you.